Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Julie Lytle, the Executive Director of Province 1 and the moderator for tonight's presentation. Deacons Talking on the Road to Emmaus is a web-based service designed as a way for our deacons to stay connected in between the biennial conferences we have in New England, as well as to help people share stories in the hope of animating, supporting, and encouraging renewed diaconal ministry. Tonight, we've got the good pleasure of having Jerry Jacobs with us from Alabama to be able to talk about deacons and dementia and help us to learn a little bit about how he got involved with this after he was ordained 7 years ago, as well as how we can start programs that might be similar. Jerry, I'd love it if you could give us a little more of a background about yourself and share the story of Grace.
Well, I'm not a cradle Episcopalian, as we used to call folks down here, but we joined the church about 30 years ago. And on a Maundy, Thursday service was our first trip to the Episcopal Church as a couple. And it was a overwhelming experience that drew us back the following Easter Sunday. We didn't even know about the Good Friday service or the Holy Saturday service, but we've been there ever since, and it's been a wonderful spiritual journey for us. Got to go to Cursillo while we were still in the first Episcopal church we joined, and then I got to go to Kairos, and that lit my fire, and I wanted to serve God more than I was doing. And eventually wound up, our diaconate program did not start until about 15 years ago in Alabama, or restart until about 15 years ago in Alabama. And I eventually made it into the fourth class of deacons. And we have since transitioned into individual formation with diaconate and for the priesthood. But we wound up with roughly 33, 35 deacons right now in our diocese. And we get together once a year with our bishop and as deacons and meet. And then, of course, we go to the College for Clergy conferences that are held twice a year. But as my bishops told me, was meant to be a deacon. I totally concur. And because I came to this late in life, I was 66 when I was ordained. So I'm glad I'm not a priest and have all those headaches that priests have. But the diaconate has been very fulfilling for me. Our church 15 years ago started a free medical clinic for our county, and we were the lead church in that effort, and it is still open and going 15 years later. And now we have begun, as the first Episcopal church in our diocese, begun a program for adults with memory loss, dementia, and it is patterned after programs that already existed in Birmingham and Montgomery and 3 other communities in Alabama. But the idea and the format is from a Methodist church in a suburb of Atlanta that was begun in 2004. It's a very simple program, but a very effective program in getting folks with memory loss to come out of their shells somewhat, to regain some of the skills they lost, at least for a short time anyway, and to also give the caregiver a 4-hour respite for the days that their loved one comes to our program. And I had a lady recently say, "This is not a break for me. This is a vacation, just 4 hours in one day." And although we've only been doing this since the 1st of January this year, it has been an incredible result in the individuals who come, to see them come out of their shells, to see them participate in the activities that we do, and to engage in conversations with us, where one of them at least was 4 years with hardly a word out of them. And he's a member of our church, and a retired physician who had to retire because of his memory loss. It is a very effective program. It has worked well in the other communities that have it here in our state. And we have 2 other Episcopal churches that are trying to get started that are in our diocese. It is volunteer based. Right now, it's all volunteers at our church. The 2 Methodist churches, the one in Birmingham and in Montgomery, operate with 2 paid staff members. And these are multi-thousand member Methodist churches, but they keep it simple and inexpensive to run. And the one in Birmingham's only been doing this about 1.5 years, the one in Montgomery about 6 years. But again, they followed the same pattern as the church in near Atlanta, and it works. And I highly recommend the manual that the director of that program in Lawrenceville, Georgia, wrote, and would be happy to share that information with you all. It's called Walking with Grace Revised. It was republished in December of 2016, and the lady's name is Robin Dill, D-I-L-L. And it is available from Amazon, and I don't own stock in Amazon. But it is easy to read. The only thing it lacks is an index, which means you have to read through it to find out what's in it. But it is a worthwhile publication, and covers almost everything that you encounter in trying to get one of these programs started.
I'd like to invite folks to open their chat boxes. If you put your cursor down on the bottom of your screen, you should see a box that says chat, and that'll be a place where you can have a conversation among yourselves, as well as to post comments and questions for Jerry. Meanwhile, I'm going to continue to talk with him and see if we can't draw out a little bit more about what actually happens when you've got folks together dealing with the situation of dementia. What are the kinds of activities that you have, and what's the kind of training and preparation you did to be able to provide this program for the families that you're supporting?
Well, we started this because a member of our church works in Birmingham, which is 50 miles south of us, and works for a home health company, a company that provides sitters, not home health, but sitters for elderly folks in home. And he met the director of the seniors programs at this church in Birmingham at one of the sessions he was conducting training. And she told him about the memory loss program. And he finally talked us into getting interested in it, and we went to visited the program. And on the first trip down, encountered incredibly gracious volunteers who welcomed us and made us feel at home. The staff members did the same thing. The director of the seniors program did the same thing, and was anxious for us to get started in the same type of program. The training we did was basically what the training they offer a volunteer. And again, very simple, a lot of videos, a lot of short verbal presentations. But the biggest thing is to learn to communicate with folks with dementia and not things not to do as well as the things to do. The activities we do start out with a meditation and prayer that can be done by a person leading the program or a volunteer. And if they want to use the upper room or the Baptist devotional or the Lutheran devotional, that's fine too. That's followed by a chair exercise session of about 20 minutes. We had only been doing chair exercises until this week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But this past Tuesday, this week, we had a lady lead us in laughing yoga, which is more or less a breathing exercise program, but you laugh while you bend and stretch and twist, what have you. And it lit up our folks immediately. They thought it was going to be silly and childish, and it was, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. So now on Tuesdays, we're going to have laughing yoga, and on Thursdays today, we had the chair exercises. That is followed with us right now with a trivia quiz. And it's 30, 35 questions, fill in the blank. And we have a one-on-one volunteer to participant, as the person with memory loss, a one-on-one ratio. And that is very important to our program because of they work with the participant and they encourage them to participate without pushing them. And then when they contribute anything, they get a lot of praise and pats, not physical, but pats on the back and that a girl, that a boys. And that is helping a great deal. We have one gentleman who, in addition to his dementia, is blind. And I did not know that the volunteer who's new to our church was going through a divorce after 35 years. He didn't tell me that up front, but they have been working together now for over a month. And the volunteer, the new member of church, keeps telling me how much he needs this program to get his mind off of what's going on in his life. And the caregiver for the blind gentleman is just raving about how much her husband loves to come. And he has come very much out of his shell. It was head down, like he was almost sleeping when he first started coming, wondering what time it was, because he was worried that they would not pick him up to take him home at the end of the session. And now he's laughing. He's playing what we call volleyball, and I'll explain that in a second. He's trying to guess at the trivia quizzes, and we're also using a biography bingo in the afternoon. So it's been a great deal of help to him. And the one I mentioned that's a member of our church, I was 4 weeks ago picking up balloons from our volleyball session, which is over a badminton net with a pool noodle. So you want to think silly, that's real silly, but they thoroughly enjoy doing this, and they'll even stand up out of their chair to hit the balloons with the pool noodle or each other. But I was bending over to pick up a balloon next to our church member's chair, the participant's chair. And he looked down at me, he says, "Are you having fun, Jerry?" And his wife said that when I related that to her, that was the first time in 4 years he remembered my name. And he now initiates conversations. She says he has his humor back that he had lost. And none of us are trained in dementia. These are all lay volunteers, and we have 2 nurses that volunteer, but different backgrounds in dementia. So what we're doing is following the program that somebody else set up, the format, and it works. After the trivia, we're getting established with music. We have 1 session in the morning, 1 session in the afternoon, and music is one of the last memories to go. And particularly when you play music from when we were much younger, either child or young adult, and that gets people singing, hopefully. And that is, I'm told, a very good exercise to do for memory loss folks. We do have several senior centers in our county. One of them here in the town of Cullman has a dance team and a choir made up of seniors. And the dance team is going to come when we can arrange with them to be there, and that will take a place in one of the trivia sessions. But dancing uses a different part of the brain than what trivia would use, and we're looking forward to seeing what effect that has. We do a hot lunch that we have catered in because our church kitchen is inadequate to prepare a lunch, a hot meal. And then after lunch, we do the volleyball. The object of the game is to knock the balloon over the net. That no score is kept. And why it got called volleyball, I don't know, but it is. And to see adults with a 50-inch pool noodle in their hand trying to hit a balloon is funny to look at, but it's even more fun to play. And I try and stay out of the way of the pool noodles. But they really get into it, and they laugh, they scream, they fuss at each other because you hit the balloon too hard or whatever. But it gets them active, and it's good exercise as much as the chair exercise is or the laughing yoga is. We do another, right now, biography bingo in the afternoon, different from the trivia quiz in the morning, and then end it with music again. I will tell you that the programs in Birmingham and Montgomery have choirs made up of participants and volunteers and caregivers. And they not only perform at the church where the program is established, sometimes they go to other churches and perform. That's a goal of ours, but it's a way down the road. We've got to get much more organized than we are right now. But we also are going to incorporate, when I can find the talent, arts, crafts, projects to work on, service projects for the community. And all of that adds to their sense of worth and that they're valued as an individual. And that's what we're trying to get across to them without saying those words, but just by the way we interact with them and talk with them. It's 4 hours. It's 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. And that includes the lunch, of course. And basically, they're kept active for the 4 hours.
That sounds fabulous. I want you to know that we've got 15 deacons gathered in one place right now in a part of this conversation with you. And they're firing up the chat space over here on the bottom right that I'm reading. And they're really curious. I think we're all finding that we're more and more being aware of people in our communities and in our families who are having various stages and types of dementia and memory loss. And there's a lot of curiosity about what you do to recruit volunteers, and are you able to get enough people, and are they dealing with the wide range, or is it more narrowly focused in terms of the type of memory loss? Can you give us a little bit more background about that?
On the participant side of it, we advertise and we try and screen somewhat that we have people that are in the mild to moderate stage. And our criteria for an individual to participate is to be able to feed themselves, to go to the restroom by themselves, take care of their restroom needs by themselves, and to be able to get around, move, even if it's with a walker or a wheelchair or a cane, whatever, as long as they can ambulate by themselves, then they qualify and get along with other people. But that's it. That's the very scientific explanation of what it takes to become a participant. We have two people that are likely past middle stage. One of them is a church member. That honestly doesn't matter as long as they can still fulfill the requirements. And the other one, we started out with full 4-hour sessions, 2 last week. Because of his behavior, we talked with his wife and told her the problem we were having with him wanting to wander and go places, which is his fixation right now. And the big additional problem he has, besides memory loss, is totally deaf in one ear and partially deaf in the other, and will not wear hearing aids. So we cut that back to this week to 2-hour sessions, half day. And the volunteer I put with him knew to talk to his left ear, and he loves to talk. And she kept him in conversation while things were going on, but he also participated in the exercise and in the, of course, the meal, and listened to the music, at least what he could hear. For the volunteers, we were blessed enough to start with 13 from our church, which was enough to have, because they couldn't come every time, enough to have 6 participants to start with. Now we're up to, on average per session, 8. And we're starting to get volunteers from other parts of the community, other churches. And the word is just now getting out there about the program effectively. We've been trying to get it out before, and it's been in the local paper and a radio station, and we even have local TV station, but not viewed very much. But we're getting the word out, and we're beginning to draw other volunteers in. And just like the other programs, the volunteers are saying, well, I just want to come one day, maybe once a month, or maybe once a quarter. And then they're there Tuesday and Thursday every week. It grabs them. And it is because of seeing the difference in the people, in the participants that it makes, that is what grabs them. And that's how that works. Once we get them, they're hooked for the most part. But we have, our diocese says we have to do a background check on them, of course, and that hasn't been a problem at all. But one lady in particular who's on my advisory board for the Grace Place, just showed up one day unannounced. And that was middle of January. And she's been every Tuesday and Thursday since then as a volunteer.
So you talked about Walking with Grace Revised by Robin Dill as kind of the handbook and manual that helped you get started.
Yes.
What kind of training does that book offer, and how long does it take for somebody to get ready to be a part of this if they get hooked like you're describing?
We do a revision of what the other two programs that we visited do. But again, based on the Walking with Grace book, and I'll hold that up, hopefully, so people can see. A very nice 163-page book that takes you through all the elements of the program. But I'm right now using a video from the church in Montgomery, which is a 5-minute, 20-second video, and I can give you the YouTube address for that, which is FUMC, First United Methodist Church, Respite, RESPITE, Ministry 2015. And the lady who's the director there, Daphne Johnston, narrates it. But they interview two spouses of men that are participants in their program, and their trepidation about letting their spouse come to the program because they didn't know anything about it. They had been told about it by friends. And it's the same sort of thing we see. To overcome that, those programs and ours invite the caregiver to sit through a first session for the 4 hours if they can afford the time, and just see what we do. And they get lunch, and that is no charge. It's come see for yourself, instead of us just talking about it. And every one that has come, except for 2 people, has joined the program. And for whatever reason, the other 2 did not. But it is not we're not trying to, the fee that we charge, which is $30 a day, which comes to $7.50 an hour for the 4 hours they're there, is less than half of what sitters charge in our community to be with a person ill or someone with dementia. So it's a bargain from that standpoint, but it's not designed to make money. It's designed to pay the expenses of the program.
Speaking of expenses, do you have liability insurance and other kinds of, what are the kinds of expenses that you have to cover, and how do you get that set up? We went to the church insurance company that has our church's liability insurance, and got a rider for this program, which cost this first year $425 for the year. The other big expense we had, which was roughly $2,200, was buying extra heavy-duty chairs to make sure that people in the chair exercise or in any other activity in the chair did not tip over, or the chair wasn't going to collapse with them if they were a large person. These are rated 500-pound capacity, and I found them online at bizchair.com for $98 plus freight.
and that came to $112 a piece, and supposedly they're $365 chairs. The other expenses were, we have, as quickly as we were able, gotten away from paper plates, plastic cups, plastic silverware, and bought some melamine plates, plastic, hard plastic cups or glasses, and some flatware, inexpensive flatware. Those were not that expensive. Restaurant, I'm gonna say it wrong. WEBSTAURENT.com, webstaurant.com has good prices, and the shipping is UPS for items like the plates and glasses and silverware. So it was not expensive there. And we are getting some things, we had a lot of things donated, in fact, already. One, a 55-inch television that we use in the program. And I also use it in the training, showing the video from the Montgomery Church. We've had games donated. We've had food, having food, lunch donated sometimes, and we're not having to buy it. And one of our ladies groups at church has taken us on to make desserts for every meal we serve. And that has been a huge help as well. So we've kept expenses low. We started out with a $2,000 startup grant from a company that one of the people that was in on the planning for the dementia program, his mother is now a participant in it. And that's his company wound up giving the $2,000 grant. We've had church members donate $500, $700, $1,000. We've had donations from family members of the participants, and we've had a $5,000 donation from our local Rotary Club, which is very active in our community, and was a good contributor to the free medical clinic when we started that. So the donations plus the fees are covering our cost and allowing us to put back some to when we can expand the program, we'll have money available to do that.
So what is your current capacity? Is there not a limit to the number of people that can participate and be recipients of what you're doing?
There is, because of our space. We're in the parish hall, which is a room just over 30 feet wide and roughly 75 feet long. But we're trying, because we have so much else going on in there, like Sunday school classes, and of course Lenten services now on Wednesday, we're only using about a third of it normally. We do use the kitchen to plate the food that is brought in, but that's a limited use of the kitchen, and we use the dishwasher in there. We are trying not to use a microphone, and that may sound ridiculous in that space, but the program in Birmingham in a similar space uses a microphone because they have as much as 20 to 24 participants in their room at one time. We're going to limit that to 12 and trying to stay away from a microphone, simply because to me it's very impersonal. It sort of, I don't know, not personal enough for someone talking directly to them, and which may be my mental problem. But If we run out of room on Tuesday and Thursday, then we'll do like the other programs did that also started 2 days a week, and see about expanding to other days during the week. The two programs, the one in Birmingham, the one in Montgomery, limit themselves to 4 days a week, and they're both full of participants, and they're doing, because they use the microphone, they're doing up to 24 people per session.
A little bit earlier on, you mentioned that there's a list of do's and don'ts, and I agree with you. Having that personal contact really makes a big difference. So microphones might be on the don't list. What else would you put there?
On the don't list is, the biggest thing is you don't argue, you don't contradict, you don't try and reason. You accept the person where they are, the participant, and if they say the sky is red and it's a bright blue, well, it may turn blue later. If they want to call their caregiver to come pick them up, well, they're coming back shortly, and it may be 11 o'clock in the morning, but you try and redirect their thinking to other things. We're about to start whatever the activity is, and I think you'll enjoy that. And it's gentle nudging and redirection, but honoring them if they, and we've had one person one time say, no, I need to leave now. And so we call the caregiver. We're not going to force anybody to stay, but it is remembering they're still a child of God, and treat them with respect and dignity like we want to be treated.
Sounds like a really important ministry aspect to the caregiving that you're doing. We've currently got 17 deacons all participating online. I want to remind everyone that if you have questions or comments you want me to pass on to Jerry, to please use the chat box. You can find that on the bottom of the screen by rolling your cursor over the bottom. One of the other questions that I have here is thinking about the memory challenges that folks have, and some of the activities you were describing, things like biography, bingo, and trivia. How does that fit with people who are having memory issues? And is that a problem with the kind of program you run?
The trivia we're using comes from a series of 7 books. I don't have one in front of me, and the publisher is a crazy name that you wouldn't associate with memory loss, but I'll get that to you, Julie, and to send out. And I just copy sections out of these books. They're oriented toward very easy common phrase, for instance, common phrases or things that would relate again to long-term memory, not short-term memory. Tuesday was fill in the blank on these phrases, one of which was they're dead as a, and the blank is, of course, doornail. And phrases like that we still use, but have been used for a long time. The biography bingo is on people from the 20th century, people like Amelia Earhart, Dwight Eisenhower, Audie Murphy, Bob Hope, today Harry Truman, did last week one on Howard Hughes, but people that have been around for a while and are very easy to remember things about. And what's fun is to hear the participants holler out the answer. And the bingo is not competitive bingo. It's everybody wins bingo. We just fill in all the spaces on the bingo sheet because all of it is, and I'll confess to using Wikipedia. to get the bios from, but all of them have some very interesting tidbits, like Harry Truman, as when he finished or dropped out of business college, not college, but business college. His first job was a timekeeper for a railroad, and he slept in the hobo camps and learned how to cuss. And he used that when he became an Army officer in World War I and when he became president. But everybody remembers the people. They just don't remember the interesting little tidbits that are in the Wikipedia bios.
I shared with everyone the screen. I did a quick search on YouTube, on Google to see what trivia games were available for people with dementia. And there's quite a list. I'm impressed by how much is coming.
Yes. We also use, we've used and still have, of course, large piece jigsaw puzzles. And 24 or 48 pieces max. And those, they get into those as well. We did, when I had one volunteer who's been ill since working, we did Valentine's cards for them to take home to their caregiver. We did Valentine's cookies that they formed, and then we baked them for them in our kitchen to take home. And some of them made it home before they ate them. And again, we want to get into more arts and crafts like the other programs are doing. So it's a variety of things, but to keep their interest peaked as much as we can. And
the arts and crafts is actually one of the questions that came up. What kinds of things are you doing crafts-wise, and are there any challenges that folks need extra help with?
There are, and that's why the one-on-one volunteer is so important, because they're sitting there with them and they can guide them or ask them, what do you think we need to do next? When they know the answer, of course. It has to be a one step at a time activity. And our constraints are the 20 minutes or so that we have for each activity, because we incorporate restroom breaks. Some of them have to go more often than usual. But we try and keep the activities to 20 minutes, and to start and finish an art and craft project in 20 minutes is pushing, but the other programs are doing it, so we're going to be able to do it. When we were at the Birmingham church, one of the times, it was gluing oyster shells, some of which was 6 inches big, onto a canvas with a frame around it. I'm not sure what that was going to turn out to be, but anyway, we participated like everybody else. But there's a lot of watercoloring projects, there are acrylic projects, and that's what we need to transition into as well. Oop, I lost your sound.
That's what happens when I'm trying to keep the puppy dog from getting into the recording. We're still getting some questions about how the volunteers get prepared. And they're curious about how long does it really take? And do you have a maximum or minimum number of people that you want to train at the same time, or is it all one-on-one?
It's honestly, because of my time, I also have another part-time job that will end sometime soon. But the more at one session of training, the better. We started out with 10 in our first session, and the second was about 5, and now it's gotten down to 2 and 3 at a time. But more people, honestly, the better use of your time. And I give them a lot to read that I can share with you also. But show the video first, and then talk with them about working with someone with dementia and how to encourage and not correct or try and correct. And it's difficult. It's difficult to break that mindset of, well, they're not capable if I don't show them how. Don't show them as much as encourage them to try and do it themselves. And the other habit to break is, oh, you remember something short term, and that's, you just don't say that to a person with memory loss.
So it sounds like you've got lots of wisdom for those of us that might be interested in starting something similar. Are there one or two things that you wish somebody had told you before you got started that you can pass on so we don't make the same mistake as we go?
I think, honestly, I think making mistakes is good as long as it's not too dramatic. if you learn from them. The lady in Birmingham who encouraged us beyond measure to get started, she just didn't know we'd start so quickly. It took us, once we got started, it took us 6 months to get to open. It took them a year and a half. And it was basically what you and I talked about earlier. We had had the same sort of experience with the medical clinic. And so the approach to getting it started was almost an exact copy of that, studying someone else doing it, getting necessary forms from the other people, listening to their, I wish I'd known stories before we got started. But this was a lot easier to start than a medical clinic. And I think, again, you try and either read the manual and visit if there's one available. I have not been able to find many in the New England area that do the same sort of thing. If you're looking for one, I would start with the Methodist Church. This is very, I won't say popular, but very prominent in Methodist churches. So that United Methodist churches, that may be an avenue there. But if you can visit a program, that is much better than reading about it and just seeing it in action. And that's what we did. And the reason, having had the previous experience, that we can say it was easy for us to do.
So certainly paying attention to what other models already exist, being able to take the wisdom. You might end up getting a few emails and phone calls as a result of this webcast. So don't be surprised.
That's okay. We're because of the free medical clinic, we're a Jubilee ministry at our church. And I welcome phone calls and emails. I am not an expert, not 3 months in, less than 3 months into it, but I'm glad to share what I know or know about, even though we may not have used it yet. And would be happy to talk with anyone.
That's wonderful. I've got a couple more quick questions. One of our deacons has a therapy dog and does a lot of visitation. Do you have that kind of a program with your program?
We've had 2 visits from therapy dogs. One from a lady who, when I called her the first time, squealed in delight because she had a retired therapy dog, and this would be ideal for Maddie to come visit the memory loss people. The second therapy dog we had is from a volunteer who the lady with the retired dog helped train his to be a therapy dog. And we have a therapeutic riding program in our community that my wife volunteers with. They have a therapy miniature horse that is going to come visit us inside the building. And when I asked, what about the mess, possible mess? No, this is a trained horse.
A smart horse.
We're looking forward to that visit. But another thing that the other programs are doing is inviting preschool groups that are church associated to bring some of their children over to intermingle with the participants and the volunteers. And that works very well. The one in Montgomery did the children performed for the group. That was the video includes that, and it was very nice, the video on YouTube.
So with all of this, is there any kind of oversight? Is there any certification, or does anyone get involved to make sure that what you're doing is safe and protected?
The diocese is looking over our shoulder. As far as local or state regulation, no. Alabama is a very unregulated state. Our free medical clinic that dispensed non-narcotic medications never had a visit from any inspector, and still hasn't for the 15 years it's been open. But I know if we accepted Medicare or Medicaid, we would have oversight from the Department of Human Resources, which is handling part of the process of the Medicare, Medicaid money coming to Alabama. But we're not going to do that. We much rather operate like the other programs operate and not have intervention just because they put requirements on you that are totally unnecessary.
Okay. We're getting close to the end of the program, and before we close, I'm wondering if there's something, you obviously have a lot of passion about this ministry, and I'm wondering if there's a story or somebody that you've interacted with that you can share that kind of highlights the passion that you feel because of the work that you're doing.
My wife's folks lived with us for the last years of their life. Her dad 14 years and her mom 10 years. Her mother had Alzheimer's. Her dad would not let us help, wouldn't let my wife help, wouldn't let me help. And he was old school. We married. I said my vows, I'm going to live my vows. And he did. It wasn't until almost the end when she fell and he couldn't pick her up by himself, and we were at work, that he sought out a home health program that would meet his requirements and take good care of her, but they would come help him. And then we had this friend at church who was a physician, a very wonderful physician and very loved in the community. And to see him deteriorate like he did, and to see him now get back to some extent to where he was, not fully, of course, and temporarily only, but to see that change in him, I couldn't ask for more. And the volunteers are seeing it. It's not Softy me, the only one. And that's what keeps them coming back, is the changes they see these people go through. And to be a part of that, to be the reason that's happening.
I know the different things that I've volunteered with, I feel like I end up getting back more than I give. And certainly to have that kind of a family connection, seeing the kind of care that can happen for our friends and family. It's wonderful to see the kind of ministry that you've been motivated to start, and the gift that you've offered to us to share that experience and be able to help. One of our archdeacons has written here, the power of deacons talking on the road to Emmaus is what we've been trying to collaborate across dioceses have been great. You've given us the opportunity to cross the country and to share wisdom. And it's been fabulous to be able to have that tonight as a part of our experience with you.
Well, I greatly appreciate being asked. It's an honor to be asked. And I hope I haven't been too rambling for you. But
full information.
It is a beyond belief rewarding activity to be involved in.
Fantastic. What I need to remind everyone is that this is a monthly program sponsored by the Episcopal Province of New England. We have recorded tonight's program and we'll be posting it on the Province One website as soon as I can get it translated, so hopefully within the next day or two. Jerry's been very generous in sharing resources, and I'll be happy to put anything that he's named in a section of the news of the Province One website, so if you want links or other resources, he'll be able to share. If the rest of the deacons want to come online, let's give Jerry a sense of who all has been a part of tonight's program and give him a warm send-off to thank him for what he's offered. You can see there's still 17 of us gathered, and we are ever so grateful for your being willing to be with us tonight.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and Godspeed.
Thank you, Jerry.
God bless you.
Mm.